So there's been a lot of reports going around the past couple of days, and I want to get into everything. But starting off with who is going to be the next head coach of the Knicks, the latest report that came out is that Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins are receiving increased Knicks focus for the head coach position. There was also another report that said Johnny Bryant remains a top candidate. I just find it hard to believe that the Knicks would let go of Tibbs to bring in his assistant for a couple of years. Although he is well respected inside of the organization, 39 years old isn't really an issue. It's not that he's young. Taylor Jenkins is just a year older at 40, and I think the Knicks honestly could end up bringing him in. But it just has to be a coach that has a ton of experience. Mike Brown's been coaching for a while. I mean, he won Coach of the Year back in 2008, and then he won it a couple of years ago in 22-23. The offense would be incredible. I understand that defense should be the priority for the Knicks. They need to get that side down. But if you have an offense that's unguardable, I mean, are you really going to lose? Because defense is all about effort. We know Brunson and Cat, if they put their minds to it, can defend. But if you have an offense that can't be stopped, you give yourself a great chance nowadays because they don't even let you play defense. They call everything a foul. And that's what Brown does. Sabonis and Fox, I mean, I get that he got fired after they got off to a slow start. But he also, again, he helped them get to their first playoffs in 16 years. The Kings were a great team. And now he's available. He also interviewed for the Knicks position in 2020 before Tibbs was hired. But Tibbs was already essentially the guy when he got a chance. So I don't really think that matters. I just wanted to include it in there. But Brown was fired by the Kings. I think he lost the locker room. De'Aaron Fox also he was not in the right space. I mean, he said in a podcast during the season that he wanted to be on a team that play at a high level, if is exactly what he said. And he was referring to the Kings are not that. But also the Kings just weren't really that good. I mean, like Sabonis and Fox are nowhere even close to as good as Brunson and Cat. And then you got OG, you got Mitch, you got McHale, you got Deuce. Hopefully Shamit can come back. And then also like DeLon Wright and Precious Achiuwa. Achiuwa actually posted on Instagram yesterday watching the finals that he feels like the Knicks just let one slip away. And I completely agree. I think if Tibbs hadn't been the coach, the Knicks would have got to the finals if they had a Mike Brown or a Taylor Jenkins. I mean, Tibbs is a great mind, but he doesn't make adjustments, and I don't think he prepared the Knicks for what they had to go through in the playoffs. That's why they collapsed, because they didn't have practice, they didn't have experience of being in that moment, and they started to rush shots and turn it over and give up uncontested threes and fail to get back. Like when Cat made that layup, well, he didn't get back, and it was a screen at half court, and all of a sudden, because Cat wasn't ready, there's a wide open three from Neesmith. So things like that should never happen. I think that was Tibbs' mistake. It also was reported of why Tibbs was fired, and I'm sort of paraphrasing what was said. So I think honestly, if I had to put my money on it, I would go with Mike Brown, but I'm not a gambling man, at least anymore. So I would not recommend betting on that. But in terms of Taylor Jenkins, I think he'll probably finish second. I think Johnny Bryant is going to be heavily considered. I don't see them again firing Tibbs to bring in Johnny Bryant. It just doesn't make any sort of sense. I mean, if it was Hollywood, yeah, maybe. Johnny Bryant all of a sudden doesn't get the Suns job, and no, well, there's a Knicks opening. I don't think it's that easy. In terms of Taylor Jenkins, I actually covered the Grizzlies for a year. It was the year, funny enough, where they won 56 games, which was their most in franchise history. I like Taylor Jenkins a lot. His problem was very similar to Mike Brown. It was the talent that he had to work with. Ja missed like half the season. Other players were injured. Turnovers were a big thing. But Jenkins, he made an adjustment to the offense in the offseason coming into last year. Well, this year because they're still in the finals. And it was all about spacing. I think it really worked. But the problem with Jenkins is that against the top teams, much like the Knicks this year, at least in the regular season, they were not good. 0-4 against OKC. They lost by 24, 13, 17, and 21. 3-6 at the point of him being fired against Houston, Denver, and the Lakers. And then the 13 other teams that were currently over 500 when he got let go of, the Grizzlies went 11-20, being outscored by 77 points. So I think a lot of that was Ja's not being out there. I think a lot of it as well was, I mean, the Grizzlies like that great? Not really. They just beat up on bad teams. So I don't think Taylor Jenkins will make a lot of sense. I do think if he came in, he would lead them to the playoffs, but I don't think he raises their ceiling like a Mike Brown would. I think Brown's a great coach, and I covered the Kings for a little bit when he was there, not as much as I did the Grizzlies. But Brown, he knows offense, and he's going to have to let the defense be up to one of his assistants. He's not running the defense, that's for sure. He's an offensive-minded coach. But I don't think that's much of a problem. I mean, you go back to 2018. I know the Rockets didn't win the championship, but they took the Warriors with KD to a 7-game. Mike D'Antoni didn't run his defense. That was just Jeff Bezzelli. So you can do that with Mike Brown. Is, hey, you run the offense, and then my assistant is going to run the defense. I don't think that's bad by any means, especially because the Knicks would be elite offensively. You can say what you want about the Knicks offense. Was it that great? Not really. I mean, it had its moments. Brunson and Cat went off in games 1 and game 5, but to consistently, no. I don't think the Knicks offense was anything. I don't even think the Knicks ran an offense. That was kind of something I wanted to talk about more in depth. Was the Knicks? They got to have a scheme. At the very least, I think Mike Brown certainly would help them do that. Again, Sabonis and Fox, look how Brown was able to elevate them. Imagine what he would do with some All-NBA players. And Jenkins, I mean, he was under the Mike Budenholzer tree, of course. That was like the Popovich tree. So he served under Budenholzer, who won a championship with the Bucks. So that's good, is that he was brought up by a guy who won with, but he also had Giannis and like a really good team like Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. But the coach always doesn't get enough credit. It's always the players when you win, and when you lose, it's the coach. But like still, I think Budenholzer's a good coach. He was with the Suns for a year or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the Knicks they need to bring in a veteran who's going to be able to get along well with the players, form good relationships, and also hold them accountable. And I think Johnny Bryant can do that. Like, I think Taylor Jenkins can do that. But I think Mike Brown should be the answer. I think Mike Brown actually makes perfect sense. I mean, I know it might not be like the sexiest move in the world, but he's a really good coach, man. I think he would just mesh well with this team and what they're trying to do. And hopefully the Knicks bring in Mike Brown. But I would not hate Taylor Jenkins at all. And Johnny Bryant, to be honest, I think would be the most interesting just because he was an assistant here and he's well liked inside of the organization, especially William Wesley. I mean, these two guys are as close as it gets, and Brunson loves him as well, talking about Bryant. Those are not the only 3 guys that are being considered, because there were reports that the Knicks were going after Billy Donovan, and they were going after Quinn Snyder, and they were also going after Ime Udoka and Jason Kidd. And who was the other one? Oh, Chris Finch. Yeah, I knew I was missing someone. Chris Finch with the Timberwolves. Now, the Knicks, they're the only team in the league that don't have a head coach right now, so they can take all the time they want because nobody else is competing with them. So that's why they ended up going out there and reaching out to these teams. It's funny because there's so many idiots online who are like, oh, the Knicks are delusional. They're trying to get these coaches and it's backfiring. No, the Knicks they don't have any pressure. They have as much time. They can take the whole summer if they want. So that's why you see them go out there and ask around and be like, hey, are these guys available? They're told no, and they move on. Now they're talking to Mike Brown. They're talking to, of course, I'm sure they're going to talk to Mike Budenholzer, and they're going to talk to Taylor Jenkins and Johnny Bryant, and I would not be surprised at all if they actually go ahead and talk to Mike Woodson, who coached the Knicks about 10 years ago. That was reported by Ian Begley that he wouldn't be surprised. He's got a great relationship with this organization. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, is the Knicks are going to take their time, and they should. You don't want to mess this up. This is a huge decision, especially when you're letting go of Tom Thibodeau.